There are people who walk into a room and everyone instinctively adjusts their behavior. Not because they're loud or aggressive, but because something in their presence demands respect. Carl Jung knew exactly why. Most people live at the mercy of others' opinions. One harsh word ruins their day. One rejection shatters their confidence. They spend their entire lives defending, explaining, proving themselves to others who don't even matter. But Jung discovered that true psychological strength isn't about building thicker skin or becoming cold and detached. It's about understanding the architecture of your own mind so deeply that external chaos simply cannot penetrate your inner fortress. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 5 Jungian principles that transform an ordinary mind into one so grounded in reality that others unconsciously recognize. This person cannot be manipulated. This isn't motivational content. This is psychological architecture. The first principle Jung taught: a strong mind does not fear its own darkness. We spend enormous energy hiding parts of ourselves. The anger we're ashamed of. The jealousy we pretend doesn't exist. The weakness we desperately cover up. We present a carefully curated version to the world, exhausting ourselves in the process. And this creates profound psychological fragility because we're always defending a facade that isn't real. Jung called this rejected part of ourselves the shadow. He said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The shadow is everything you deny about yourself. And here's the critical part. It doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It controls you from the unconscious, pulling strings you don't even see. Think about someone at work who triggers intense irritation in you. Jung would ask, what quality in them are you refusing to see in yourself? Their arrogance, their neediness, their incompetence. You're not actually angry at them. You're angry at the mirror they're holding up to your disowned self. This is why most people are so easily manipulated. They have unintegrated shadow material that anyone can exploit. Touch their shame, and they collapse. Expose their weakness, and they crumble. They're defending territory they haven't even mapped. But when you've looked at your own shadow and integrated it, something remarkable happens. You become psychologically immune to projection. Someone tries to shame you. You've already accepted that part. Someone tries to expose your weakness. You already know it's there. You've looked at it, understood it, and integrated it into your whole self. This is why integrated people are intimidating. There's nowhere to attack because they've already fortified everything. They're not pretending to be perfect. They're complete. They know their darkness as well as their light, and that knowledge creates an unshakable foundation. Imagine someone criticizing you for being selfish. If you've denied that part of yourself, you'll react defensively, prove them wrong, feel wounded for days. But if you've integrated your shadow, you simply think, yes, I can be selfish sometimes. Everyone can. What's the actual issue here? The attack loses all power because you're not defending an illusion. Pause right now. What quality do you most harshly judge in others? Write it down. That's your shadow speaking. The arrogance you hate? It exists in you. The weakness you despise? It's there too. The moment you can say, yes, that exists in me, without collapsing in shame, you've taken your first step toward true psychological strength. Recognizing your shadow isn't pleasant. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing not just your face, but every distorted part you've tried to hide. But it's precisely there, in that raw honesty, that real power is born. Because you cannot master what you refuse to confront, but recognizing your shadow is only the foundation. The second principle shows you how to stop giving away your power. Jung said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. But most people never hear the second sentence. The victim archetype is the most seductive psychological trap that exists. It gives us identity, attention, and a ready-made excuse for why our lives aren't working. I can't because of my past. If only they hadn't done that to me. The world is against me. It feels like protection, but it actually strips away all your power. Here's what Jung understood. When you identify as a victim, you unconsciously maintain your suffering because it's become familiar. Pain becomes identity. I am the rejected one. I am the overlooked one. I am the one who always gets hurt. And this makes you incredibly easy to manipulate because anyone can simply touch that wound and watch you react. Compare two people who experienced the same betrayal. Person A says, "Everyone leaves me. I'll never trust again." People are cruel, they're disempowered, defensive, psychologically fragile. Person B says, "That relationship showed me I was ignoring red flags. I've learned what I will and won't accept. I'm grateful for the clarity." They're empowered, learning, growing stronger. Same event, completely different psychological stance. Person B is intimidating because they cannot be victimized. They transform everything into growth. You cannot use their past against them because they've already extracted the lesson and moved forward. Think about this in practical terms. A colleague gets the promotion you wanted. The victim response, "They always overlook me. It's not fair. I'm not appreciated." This keeps you stuck, bitter, powerless. The creator response, "What skill do they have that I can develop? What can I do differently? Let me ask for specific feedback." 6 months later, guess who's actually become stronger? The shift is simple but profound. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Start asking, "What is this teaching me? What power am I being called to claim?" This reframe changes everything because it puts you back in the driver's seat of your own life. When you drop the victim identity, you become psychologically dangerous to manipulators. They can't guilt you because you don't owe anyone your suffering. They can't use your wounds against you because you've already healed them or accepted them. They can't make you feel small because you've claimed full responsibility for your entire life, and that makes you untouchable. For the next 24 hours, ban this phrase from your vocabulary. "I can't because." Replace it with, "I choose not to, and here's why." Feel the difference in your body when you say it. That subtle shift, that's power returning to where it belongs. You've stopped hiding from yourself. You've stopped giving your power away. Now the third principle shows you how to tap into something far greater than your individual mind. Jung discovered that inside your personal mind lies a deeper layer, an inherited psychological structure shared by all humanity. He called it the collective unconscious, and it contains ancient patterns of power. We inherit not just DNA, but psychological patterns, archetypes, the warrior, the sage, the sovereign, the magician, the lover. These aren't just metaphors, they're energetic states with real psychological power. Most people only access one or two naturally, leaving massive power dormant. Weak minds are one-dimensional. They have one strategy for everything. Always the peacemaker, so they have no boundaries. Always the warrior, so they can't find peace. Always the caretaker, so they end up resentful and drained. Strong minds are multidimensional. They can access the right archetypal energy for each situation. Imagine you're in a difficult business negotiation. The warrior in you sets boundaries and doesn't back down. The sage reads the room and finds strategic advantage. The sovereign holds calm authority. The magician reframes the entire conversation. A strong mind moves fluidly between these states. A weak mind gets stuck in one, usually the wounded child begging for approval. Your current personality is actually limiting you. You have access to thousands of years of human psychological patterns, but you're only using a fraction. When you learn to consciously activate different archetypes, you multiply your psychological resources exponentially. Here's how this works practically. Facing a difficult conversation. Instead of going in as anxious you, pause and ask, Which archetypal energy does this situation require? Setting a boundary? Call on the warrior, comforting someone. Call on the healer, leading a team. Call on the sovereign, solving a complex problem. Call on the sage. You literally shift your psychological state by consciously choosing which ancient pattern to embody. People who can fluidly shift archetypal states are deeply intimidating because they're psychologically unpredictable. You can't trap them in one emotional reaction. They have access to an entire arsenal of responses. Identify which archetype dominates your personality right now. Are you always the caretaker, the rebel, the victim? Now identify which archetype you've completely neglected. That's your growth edge. Study it. Embody it. You'll feel new power emerge. You've integrated your shadow, killed the victim, and accessed archetypal power. Now comes Jung's most profound teaching. Jung spent his life studying one question. What does it mean to become a complete human being? He called the answer individuation, and it's the difference between someone you can push around and someone you instinctively respect. Individuation is the journey to become your authentic self. Not your best self, not your ideal self, but your real self. Most people live fragmented. They have a work self, a family self, a social self, each version slightly different, each requiring energy to maintain. And this fragmentation creates profound weakness because each fragment has its own fears and insecurities that can be exploited. You have multiple masks. The professional who's always put together, the friend who's always supportive, the child who still seeks parent approval, the partner who adapts to keep peace. Each mask is exhausting to maintain. Each one is a vulnerability waiting to be exposed. Individuation means integrating all these fragments into one coherent self. Same person in every room, same values in every relationship. Same truth, regardless of who's watching. This is terrifying to attempt, which is why so few people actually do it. Because integration means accepting you're both light and dark. It means disappointing some people. It means standing alone sometimes. It means losing the comfort of being whoever others need you to be. But when you individuate, when you become one integrated self, you gain something extraordinary. Consistency. And consistency is power. People can't manipulate you because you don't change based on who's in the room. You can't be gaslit because you know exactly who you are. You can't be seduced by flattery or crushed by criticism because both are just external noise that doesn't penetrate your integrated core. Think of someone you deeply respect. Chances are they're the same person in every context. They don't have a work voice and a real voice. They don't pretend, they don't perform, they simply are. That unwavering consistency creates a gravitational pull. People orbit them because there's no manipulation, no game, just solid presence. Individuated people are intimidating because they're complete. There's nothing to exploit, no gap between image and reality, no hidden insecurity to leverage. They've done the hard work of becoming whole, and wholeness is the ultimate psychological strength. Jung warned that the individuation process usually requires a crisis, what he called the dark night of the soul. Your old identity must die for your true self to emerge. Most people avoid this crisis their whole lives. The strong ones walk directly into it. Ask yourself right now, in which areas of my life am I performing rather than being authentic? Where do I change my opinions, values, or behavior based on who's watching? That's where your power is leaking. Seal those leaks. You understand the principles. Now comes the most important part, how to actually live this way every single day. Jung said, "No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Meaning, you can't build a strong mind by only thinking about strength. You have to practice it in the dirt of daily life. Everything we've covered means nothing if you don't train. Knowledge without practice is just intellectual entertainment. Here's how to actually build an unshakable mind. Practice 1. The Shadow Inventory. 5 minutes every evening. Ask yourself, what triggered me today? Who irritated me? What emotion surprised me? Write it down, then ask, what part of my shadow is this revealing? This daily practice keeps you conscious, which keeps you strong. Most people go through life completely unconscious of their patterns. You won't be one of them. Practice 2. The Responsibility Audit. Once a week, review your complaints and victim statements. Every time you said, I can't because, or they made me, or if only. Write them down, then rewrite each one from the creator perspective. This rewires your brain from reactive to responsible. And responsibility equals responsibility, which equals power. Practice 3. Archetypal activation. Before any challenging situation, pause. Ask yourself, which archetypal energy does this require? Spend 60 seconds embodying it. Stand differently. Breathe differently. Think differently. You'll notice an immediate shift in your presence. This is how you stop being one-dimensional. Practice 4. The integration question. Every morning ask yourself, am I being the same person I was yesterday, or am I performing again? This daily check-in keeps you aligned with your authentic self. Over time, this creates unshakable consistency. And consistency, as we've discussed, is what makes you psychologically formidable. Practice 5. Conscious suffering. When difficulty comes, and it will, don't run. Jung said the greatest problems of life are fundamentally unsolvable. They can only be outgrown. So sit with the pain. Ask what it's teaching you. Transform it into growth fuel. This is how you develop real psychological strength, not fake positivity that crumbles under pressure. Here's what happens when you practice these principles consistently. You become non-reactive because you've seen your shadow, so triggers don't control you. You become non-manipulable because you've killed the victim, so guilt doesn't work on you. You become multidimensional because you've accessed archetypes, so you're unpredictable and resourceful. You become integrated because you've individuated, so there's no gap to exploit. And you become grounded because you've trained daily, so you're unshakable in the storm. This combination, this is what makes someone intimidating. Not in a threatening way, but in a way that makes others unconsciously think, I should be careful here. This person knows themselves too well to be manipulated. The mind fortress isn't built in a day. It's built in these small, consistent practices. And now you have the blueprint. Jung never promised this would be easy. He promised it would be real. Building a mind so strong it intimidates everyone isn't about domination or coldness. It's about becoming so integrated, so conscious, so grounded in your own reality that manipulation bounces off you like water off stone. Most people will hear this and do nothing. They'll stay fragmented, reactive, and easily influenced. They'll keep their masks, their victim stories, their unconscious patterns, and they'll remain psychologically weak, tossed around by every opinion, every slight, every storm. But some of you, the ones who watch to the end, you're different. You understand that true power is internal. That respect is earned through depth, not performance. That intimidation isn't about fear. It's about others recognizing you've done the inner work they've avoided. This is your invitation. Not to become someone new, but to become who you actually are beneath all the conditioning, all the wounds, all the masks. That integrated self is already there, waiting. Jung's principles are just the map to find it. This work takes years. There will be days you regress, days you play victim, days you hide your shadow, days you wear the mask. That's part of being human. But each time you catch yourself and correct course, you build psychological muscle. And over time, with consistent practice, you become the person others can feel but can't quite explain. There's something different about them. If you're committed to building your mind fortress, comment one psychological pattern you're committing to work on. The journey starts with that single decision. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your fate is in your hands now. Use it wisely."